Have you ever experienced that moment where you feel like you're screaming? Maybe it's been in a dream, maybe it's been in real life, maybe it was as a kid, but at some point you felt yourself screaming, "That's not what happened. It's not what happened. Those are not the facts. Somebody's lying about what really happened. That is not what happened." If you've ever experienced that feeling in your life as a leader or just as an everyday Joe, you're going to want to hear what I have to say in this very brief podcast. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And I have been one of those people who over and over and over on particular instances, I can think of 3 or 4 in my life specifically, but have had to say, that is not what happened. What you perceive to have happened is not what happened. What they're telling you happened is not what happened. The facts, for those of us who were there, are not what you're being sold. It was an entirely different event. There was nothing intended, nothing felt, nothing experienced like what someone is now defining. Now, I want you to think back over the year of 2020, how many times we heard narratives that people on the ground, so to speak, were not telling. Things that happened in various levels of our lives, from the medical world to what we called science, mask or no mask, or no mask, or mask, or mask, or 52 masks, or no masks, or whatever, to stay in your house, to stay home, to stay safe. All of those, that's just one sliver of 2020. We had social justice. We had statues torn off their pedestal. We had people attacked physically, verbally, financially, and emotionally because of what they believed and what they believed alone. Yes, we live in a volatile world. I understand that. We live in a world where a whole lot of people have a whole lot of different ideas. I understand that, and I respect their ideas. But I also know that sometimes those ideas become articulated in a narrative or a story form that serves an agenda that is not the truth. Let that settle in for a minute. Sometimes those ideas get delivered in a narrative form that serves an agenda and not the truth. See, when we get to a place where ideologies trump the truth, where ideologies have the ability to stamp out anything that actually is provable, that's evidential, whether it's historically evidenced or it's as we're living. Again, there was a movie called, or a television series called Next, and I don't know if they've made the next season or not. But in the show, there was an episode where there was a riot going on outside the law enforcement building. And outside the law enforcement building, there was a guy who was tased. The taser actually missed him, I believe, in the episode. I'd have to go back and look again, but he was tased. He was okay. He led away from the building and everything was cool. But in real time, the media was hacked and a story narrative was created visually that made it look as though he was shot to death. And even though the people on the ground didn't escalate the violence, what was shown on the media did. And around the world, there was an eruption of anger and frustration because people had been deceived about what really happened. Now, I believe we're coming to a day, whether it's digitally or it's just societally or culturally or governmentally, I believe we're coming to a day where the things that many of us hold to be truth, the conversations we've had with ourselves, with our children, with our spouses, those conversations are going to become questioned. And when they become questioned, people are going to say, well, did it really happen like that? Did you really say it like that? Are you sure that's what happened? Let me tell you something. From the features of brainwashing, somebody's only going to question your motives and your intentions so many times to ask you, did you really say that, so many times before you begin to ask yourself, did I really say that? Do I really believe that? Do I really think that? Do I own that idea? Is that truly a part of my belief system, my core value? Or did somebody else force that on me? Yep, it happens. You will begin to question even your own thoughts, even your own ideas. But there is a solution. Journal. Get a pen and a piece of paper where the tech giants can't go in and sweep, where your hard drive can't. Imagine that. It fried my hard drive. Whether it was a lightning storm or it was a virus update. How many of you have ever experienced your cell phone losing all of your photos and all of your videos because of an update? How many of you have experienced that new update then caused your battery to stop working? How many of you have had someone take a book or borrow a book and not give it back? Yeah, see, all of these things are reality. And all of these things are ways that what you believe, what you think, what you want to tell your children, what you want to tell your spouse, what you want to tell your grandchildren can be controlled by somebody else. Have you ever had that moment where you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, no, seriously, I read this online and it was a credible source. I swear it was. And you go back and look, and when you type in that search, there's nothing about that topic that even closely reflects what you've read already. Not even close. It's because somebody changed their opinion on what you should have access to. Yep, happens every day. And I don't care what they tell you, Google and Siri are both listening. Every day, all day, if you have any of those devices, they're listening. So your conversations are being monitored, your thoughts are being noted, your ideas are being captured, and it may or may not be for the best posterity because they can fake your voice, they can fake your face. There are ways to digital. You think I'm kidding? Look up digital fakes on any platform. And you're going to find that there are examples of digital fake that are so real that you wouldn't know your own spouse's voice telling you something that you know they would never say. Journal. Have those conversations with your kids. Write them down. If you must, if you don't like to write or you can't, get at least a mini tape recorder. Record your ideas, record your thoughts, and store them somewhere. If you have the funds right now, I suggest that you get to the local half-price bookstore or Goodwill bookstore and buy up the oldest set of encyclopedias you can find. Because history is changing. History is being rewritten. Society, as we know it, is being scrubbed, erased, and changed and altered in preparation for what the desired future is. Some of that can be good. Most of it, we have to go back to the old phrase, if you fail to learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. If you don't know history, oh, it's coming back. Ask yourself about the ancient technologies like the pyramids. How were the pyramids built? I mean, the machines that we have today would have taken decades to build the pyramids. Just to get a machine across the sand heavy enough to move a 3 or 4 ton stone to the top of the pyramid would have taken millions of dollars. How did that happen back then? How did we lose the technology? How did we lose the information? Because there are people throughout history who have been diligent about erasing cultures completely so that there was no existence of them. You want to know the truth on that? Look up the Assyrians and see what you can find on the Assyrians. Cultures have been erased from history altogether. All of their wisdom, all of their knowledge, all of their education, all of the data completely gone. The best hope we have right now that our children and our grandchildren will be able to look at what we've lived through and go, yeah, that's not what happened. I know because I have eyewitness accounts of people who lived through the moment. And that's not what happened. That's not what happened. January 6th was a tragedy. January 6th was a disaster. It should have never happened at all. But what's been played in the media and what actually happened on the ground don't have as many similarities as you might think. We've been told over and over in the narrative that it was about one officer being bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. The autopsy says that's not how he died. Which facts are you going to believe? Which truth will you hold on to? How will you build your own belief systems? If what you know to be true today gets so questioned so repeatedly, so over and over, that you lose sight of what you believe yourself, how will you convince your children and your grandchildren what the truth is? I'm telling you, leaders right now, I don't care what the size of your organization, if it's just your family or 1 million people, if what you believe today is important to you, write it down. Not in a digital format, Not on a hard drive. One EMP destroys all of those. All of your laptops, all your cell phones. We'll be back in the Stone Age in a heartbeat. And yes, China's building one. They've already got a couple ready to deploy. One EMP, one solar flare. Assume it's not even an earthbound problem. It's a global warming problem. One solar flare could erase every hard drive on the earth. Look it up. Do the research. I know you think I'm crazy. Write down what you believe to be important. Write down the facts as you know them. Write down the things you want your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren to know so that they can go back and read those things for themselves. The day is coming when truth will be hard to discern, to detect, and even to find. You can start now. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.